The second major thing is that we want to be able to create a bubble for some level of travel from those countries that really and truly present no major risk to us. And we're doing this of our own initiative, but we anticipate that some people will probably reciprocate. We had a bubble before, but it was a bubble for all passengers. We are now saying that we are prepared to introduce a bubble for vaccinated passengers for those countries within the Caribbean that meet our criteria that is determined both, and the Ministry of Health's criteria reflects: one, whether the country is deemed low risk by the automated SHAPE country risk assessment tool, and whether it has been designated not to be at the community transmission phase according to the WHO. And against that background, it therefore means that immediately from the 30th of June, when we introduce this bubble, persons who are fully vaccinated can come to Barbados with a negative PCR test, and we will not have to test you at the airport because of the criteria that the Ministry of Health has used to determine that the risk is absolutely low. And let me give you an example. A country like Dominica has had little or no cases. A country like Anguilla and Montserrat, the same thing. Grenada has been able to control itself as well, fairly well, and the issue therefore, based on the criteria and the green and red that I have before me, we will be able to ensure that fully vaccinated persons with a negative PCR test coming from Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Anguilla, Montserrat, BVI, Turks and Caicos, Cayman Islands, and Bermuda can immediately enter without a further test on arrival. We are conscious that our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Lucia are not yet quite at that point. And indeed, prior to holding this press conference, I spoke to my brother, Prime Minister Gonzalez from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we are hoping to have bilateral discussions over the course of the next week to 2 weeks to see how best we can collaborate on testing, on vaccinations, recognizing also that in the Grenadines, there is a lot of movement daily between Barbados and the Grenadines, and that they've effectively not had any issues in the Grenadines. So we would want to add the Grenadines to this pool, but we need to have the further discussions this week with Prime Minister Gonzalez, and ultimately then also the mainland in St. Vincent. Similarly, St. Lucia. So, my friends, we know that the criteria does not admit immediately of Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Belize, Bahamas, but guess what? They're subject to the same protocols that would have existed before. So if their vaccinated persons come with a negative PCR, they'll land at our airport. They'll have to have the second PCR test as all other vaccinated persons do now, and then they'll be free to come in to the country. If they're unvaccinated, we know the drill is a longer period. I think it's 5 days before they have the PCR test in the quarantine, so that there are still the layers of protection against the layers of risk that we face. And I hope that the public is understanding exactly what I'm saying. And if they aren't, or they need further clarification, the Ministry of Health and myself will ensure that as the days go by, we will be able and be in a position to do that. To repeat, therefore, we are establishing a bubble for vaccinated persons coming from countries that have been deemed very low risk by the Ministry of Health, and those countries again are Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Anguilla, Montserrat, BVI, Turks and Caicos, Cayman Islands, and Bermuda. We hope that in the near future that we can add, as I said, after the bilateral discussions and looking at how we can help those countries, because there is a lot of movement between two of our closest neighbors, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Lucia. And we hope as well that those in Bonaire, St. Eustatius and Saba, St. Martin, that we will also see some level of movement there soon, because I think some of the data is not as clear as we would like, and I didn't want to hold up the announcement of this or indeed this press conference today, because Barbadians really do deserve some good news after what we had 2 days ago, and I think all of us will agree that this is welcome.